a Conservative mayor has resigned after being labelled homophobic when he apologised for attending a council LGBTQ+ Pride event. Mohammed Nazim, the mayor of Keighley in West Yorkshire, said in his Facebook post that Pride contradicts his personal religious beliefs and it was a lapse of judgment to attend the raising of a progress flag. I've got to say, his statement goes on and on and on and on and on. And when I was reading it, I thought, if I didn't know the context of this, I would think this fella was it's almost like he's murdered someone. I read it, and some of the language, I wholeheartedly apologise. He goes on that he's repented for his sin kind of thing. It's a bit weird and a little bit over the top, if you ask me. What do you make to it?
Well, I mean, contrary to what people want to say, you know, he did something which was kind of against his principles as a Muslim. You know, he was supporting and contributing, I guess, to Pride Month, which totally contradicts what we believe as like Muslims. So for him to have done that, of course, he's going to be apologetic because you would have upset a lot of his community.
So let me square this circle then. So if you're a practicing Muslim, am I right?
Yeah,
Muslim? Yeah. So if you have got a religion or faith or whatever that says to you, right, so we are against or not in favour of whatever the right terminology is, LGBTQ+, whatever the saying is. How is that compatible then with being able to work in public office?
OK, so these are two different questions. So the first thing is that when it comes to working in public office and working as a councillor, government, MP, etc., you are going to find yourself having to decide whether you're going to not go with your values and your principles and which of those things is more important to you, and that is really difficult. That's why a lot of Muslims do find it very tricky to go and work in those environments, because if they're very, very strict, they're never, ever going to do something that's going to be against that. You know, I've spoken to people who will say that I will not do anything that's going to go against my principles because I'm a principled person. Therefore, there are certain avenues that you can't explore.
But then that, to me, would make it incompatible then with going into... I mean, I don't know if I'm missing something here, but if your job is as a public servant, councillor, mayor, whatever, the role is irrelevant, and you're there to represent your constituencies, your constituents, surely then representing all of them, whatever their sexuality, whatever their race, faith, whatever, that is part of your job, isn't it?
Of course it's part of your job. And, I mean, I'm not into Pride Month. I'm not into LGBTQ+ being celebrated for an entire month. But having said that, what I find quite interesting about this story is the vast majority of people who would promote minority rights, such as LGBTQ+, are the same kind of people who would promote the rights of Muslims to have their own private worship and you know, do as they would wish to do. And here you've got a mayor that's crossed that boundary. He's stood up for LGBTQ+ minority rights and then found that he's alienated his own constituency in his borough. And what I find quite frightening about the story is how one minority, in this case Muslims, have shut him down. And I mean, you know, it's absolutely, I think, stands the test of cursory scrutiny that if he'd said the same thing, you know, if he'd been criticised by Christians, he would never have had that repentant apology the way that he did. And there is something about Islam, there's something about that minority that does cow people who criticise it. And even now, as I say this...
Is that fair?
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. And I'd say it's fair to say, but it's also very true. And I think it's very right for people to criticise things. It's a religion.
Yeah.
For Muslims, it's the word of God, and they have boundaries. We have boundaries, we have lines. And if you don't criticise something that is a principle, that means it's not really a principle to begin with. So
they should be prepared to have it challenged and have the debate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when we talk about Pride Month and we're talking about LGBTQI and, you know, the rest of that, nobody actually knows what that is anymore, you see, because it encompasses so many different elements of the community. And I think we need to clarify that first. So you've got the trans movement, and you've got being gay, and Muslims...
And they're two totally different things.
And they're so different. Yeah. And the thing is, with having a belief or any kind of system or trying to live your life, the key thing to understand is not to impose that on anybody else. What we're finding with the trans movement, let's just say that, it is an imposition at the moment. We're finding that you cannot go anywhere unless it's rammed down your throats, and that's not what anyone should be doing of any community.
But then, I don't know, if I've got a viewer watching perhaps that's gay, whatever, they'll be watching this now and saying, well, hang on a second, I'm not Muslim, I'm not Christian or whatever, so the belief system of whatever religion it is, Christianity, Islam, whatever, why is that relevant to me? Why should that person feel like they are in the wrong or should be shamed or whatever it is for their belief system, just because there's a different belief system out there?
Yeah, I don't think anybody should be shamed. I think the issue always happens is when you have the imposition of it being put onto you by force.
I think the really important point, if I may say so, that you've made, Bushra, is that these debates are taken not in order to facilitate further debate and to recognise other people's rights to do as they wish. These arguments are made to suppress opinion, to control. And it's part of woke, if you don't mind me saying so. This is all part of the woke agenda. Ostensibly promote minority rights, to shut down debate so that you can deliver your political ideology, whatever that is. And Sadiq Khan, who's also Muslim, does this incredibly well.
Yeah.
He's always wrapping himself in a pride flag, isn't he? So I don't know how Sadiq feels about that. Maybe he'll come on the show and explain.
You see, when I read deeply this apology statement that was published by this mayor, I wholeheartedly apologise for my participation in the flag-raising ceremony, as it contradicts my personal religious beliefs, as many of you are aware. I want to emphasise that I've also personally repented for this error, reflected deeply on the consequences of my actions, and looking back, I should have respectfully declined the request at the time. And it goes on and it goes on about...
He's been shut down.
But it goes
it does seem a little bit too much, doesn't it? It seems like it's a little bit over the top, so I'm not too sure what he was thinking.
I hope that people can find it within their hearts to forgive me for this lapse of judgment. I understand the distress that my actions have caused.
So the question he has to answer now is he anti-LGBTQ plus rights? Because that apology, effectively, is denouncing what he had previously stood for.
Yeah.
And there's the idiocy in this whole woke thing. You've now got two minority interests going head-to-head against each other, both of which don't like being shut down.
Well, I'm going to leave you to ponder that question this evening. It can be your homework tonight. Is religion compatible with the direction of travel in Western society? It's all very liberal now, isn't it? Everyone can be anything, do anything, and all the rest of it. Is there a contradiction? And if so, would that rule you out, or should it, from serving in public office? I don't suspect that debate will be solved any time soon. We'll revisit it, I am sure of that.